Not yet, but take either one you want. And what you're going to do is you're going to pour boiling water in there. And it's hard to do. It took me a long time. I kept reading that was a good idea they say it wakes it up. Well, to me, it kills it. So that's the way I do it all the time. And I've tried it with these little things, and it works great. You pour boiling water in there, and then you fix yourself up something to ferment it in. And what I use a lot, what I use mostly is this. It's just a cardboard box that I've made styrofoam lining for. And I've got a light bulb, but smallest wattage light bulb I could find that I put in there.
John, people over here can't see.
Hold it up.
It's really not much to see.
Why does it need a certain temperature?
Tip it down.
Yeah, I get to that.
Tip the back up.
Huh?
There we go.
It's just
Styrofoam that fits in it perfectly.
wow, cool. That sounds good.
If you use what?
From U.S. Wellness Meats, which has wonderful foods.
Grass-fed.
Save next time
U.S. Wellness Meats.
whenever you get boxes, save them.
Would you save us?
Someone's going to want them. Actually, what you can do also, this is just one way to do it, that I do it, but using this way, I have a timer, and especially in the summertime, most timers go half hour on, half hour off. That's not quite enough granularity for this light bulb. Maybe you'll find a smaller light bulb. This one's, I don't even know.
25 watt?
Whatever it is, it's a little too hot to go more than 15 minutes without overheating it too much. So I set this thing to come on, for 15 minutes every hour or whatever. In the summer, 15 minutes every 2 or 3 hours is more than enough. You just have to play with it. And the way you play with it, the way I play with it, is I have a remote thermometer, where you have an inside-outside thermometer. And I put one in here, and I put it in the garage, because this can stink when you're doing it. And the other one I have in the house, and I just kind of keep track of it that way. It's got a big range, fermentation range, all the way from 87. Ideal is 87 to 108 degrees. Which
So could you use like a yogurt maker?
that's another thing here. Yeah, you can use a yogurt maker, and in fact, the current thing that they're talking about on the news group is the guy in Japan said, the fancy rice makers that they make in Japan, where they've got fuzzy logic, and it's not quite like the ones we get. I think we can get them if we get real expensive ones, but he says that just makes it super easy. It cooks it, and then it goes down to the low temperature and finishes it, and you don't have to do anything.
John, there's a device out there called a PID.
Yeah, we're gonna make a Sauvé cooker with it one day.
You bet.
Good. Let's have a workshop.
You can set that thing, and it'll stay within half a degree.
I know. Those things are great, and we should have a workshop and make them. But
$35.
Huh?
$35.
Right. To buy a Sauvé cooker costs about $500, but you can put together stuff for $35 plus another $50. You probably have one. But short of that, I forgot to bring it, but I was going to bring, but you don't really need to see it. You can buy I've got a hot plate that I got at Harbor Freight for $10, and it's got a dial. And crock pots these days, because of liability fears, they aren't slow cookers anymore. Even on the Keep Warm, a lot of them are boiling temperature or above. They're afraid people are going to get food poisoning, and so you can't get them at low temperature anymore. Plus, I discovered if you drop them, they break, and that's real bad. So I got this $10 hot plate, and it's got a dial, and I know, it's got this warm, whatever, and I know that the W on warm, I can cook my beans and keep them below 190 degrees so the protein doesn't get degraded. And it's always the same if I just put it on the W. They're great for $10, and then you can put a great big pot. Plus, you can use the same thing for making your bone stock or whatever. So that's a good way to cook your beans.
Harbor Freight?
Harbor Freight. I think they have them other places, but $10, and it works great. Another way to do it, if you don't want to bother with this yet, is to use a cooler and just take a couple of jugs and fill them up with hot water, as hot as your hot water heater will go, and put those in there. And with our water heater this time of year, in 2 jugs, if I do that at night, first thing in the morning, it's time to change them again, and then towards later in the day, it's time to change them one more time, and that gets them through just right. I forgot to bring the pressure cooker and the basket strainer, but when I do it in here, I put the beans, and I don't use soybeans very much, but of course the Orientals use soybeans pretty much exclusively. But navy beans work real well. Anyway, after you've cooked them and they're soft and ready, you inoculate them, and so either in a strainer that you put in something like this, or you could put it in a strainer in here. You don't want them more than about, at the most, 2 or 3 inches deep, because they generate heat during that period I told you about where they've done their quorum sensing and they're really going crazy and reproducing real fast, a lot of metabolic activity. They get too hot. So if you have a timer, you can back off a little bit on that.
Okay, so back up a little bit.
Okay.
You have a strainer?
Yeah, so you have a strainer in a pressure cooker. It's a real handy way to close it. You've got some water in the bottom of the pressure cooker, and that's like a heat sink over this. So the light bulb goes through something like this or something like this, and it kind of diffuses and kind of nicely warms everything up without getting too hot. Warms up that little heat sink in the bottom, the water in the bottom of the pressure cooker. So the beans aren't actually in the water. They're in those folding basket strainers that you put in pots. So you fill that up about like that.
So you're steaming them, basically.
I've already steamed them. This is where I'm fermenting them. But I do steam. What works nicely is to steam them in a pressure cooker in that same basket. Especially with soybeans. If you cook soybeans in a pressure cooker in water, it can plug up the hole because of all that scuzz that comes out. But in a basket strainer, it won't do that. So you cook your beans, whatever kind, in a strainer in there. And then when they're done, you just stir in the spores. And then you put a sterilized hot cloth over the top to keep them moist. Just have some boiling water, put it on there. In a way, I don't need to go into a whole lot of detail on this because on that website, the NATO support group, it has all these directions. It has recipes for how to make it. It has, how to deal with the taste of it, all that stuff.
Can you only use navy beans and soy?
No. In fact,
kind of beans?
most people think you can only use soybeans. And my experience has been that soybeans work great. Navy beans can work just about as well. The nanobacteria likes protein and it likes fat. And garbanzos have a lot of fat and a fair amount of protein. Soy has even more. To kind of make up for that and make it a little bit stronger, you can add other things. And it gets confusing to get into a lot of that because you don't have to do it. But you can put in a little sugar. My discovery has been, and I don't know of anyone else doing this, but it's worked great for me. I know that when you're trying to soften beans when you're cooking them, a lot of times you throw in some pork fat or something like that, and it makes them soften better. And I got to thinking, well, these beans don't have as much fat as soybeans. Probably the natto would like it better if I did that. So I cooked the beans with some fat, either some lard, whatever, and it seems to work a lot better. So I think that's a good thing to do.
So you could use black beans.
So do
You
you
can use
pour
black beans, tzatziki beans.
Garbanzo?
Huh?
You use garbanzo beans?
Yeah, in fact, the hummus
Yeah, I like that.
That's garbanzos. Baby garbanzos. Ooh, I can't even stand the smell. Actually, the real small beans, and the Japanese like to make natto with as small beans as they can get. They also like it real strong. And I think it's just a matter of, the smaller it is, the more thoroughly it's fermenting it, and it's just stronger. But it doesn't have to be that strong. But
Well, if it's proteins and fat, how about something like sunflower seeds?
sunflower seeds work. I've not done it, but I've read that it works. Just about everything kind of works. The only thing I can think of that I've done that absolutely didn't work was acorns. And one of the thing that I like the best, that works better than anything else, which will only interest you if you have a dog, but dog food, that's killer. Man, that gets stringy and the dogs love it.
You mean
So-
like
Oh, you
dry
make
dog
it for
food?
your dog.
Yeah.
Stuff I gave you,
That's
Kibble.
kibble?
that's kibble.
I tried to figure out what that stuff
It's
was,
kibble.
but she loves it.
Yeah, they do.
Phew.
I don't know if anyone that has a dog knows that what they love to do more than anything in life is inoculate their gut. That is their favorite thing in the world to do. And the only animal that likes to do that more than a dog is a prehistoric human. It's true. They're doing studies on hunter-gatherers that haven't been exposed to anything, you know, and they figured these people must have the gut bacteria that we had a million years ago. And the most striking thing about their studies of those people is the stuff they do. Man, are they trying to inoculate their gut? They're doing stuff that would just gross you out. It's really, it's weirder than dogs.
They didn't follow the camels or the horses, they followed.
They go for
They
everything.
rotted their meat.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
some cultures, it's not good to have it with metal. It doesn't seem to be a problem with the nano.
To have it with metal, you mean to
No,
store
to
it in?
Steamer bath.
Vegetable steamer.
I don't know. That's not something that, I mean, a lot of, the Japanese are the fermentation experts of the world. But they're not worried about soy like we are. They're not worried about a lot of stuff like we are. I haven't seen anything about that, and I wouldn't expect to right away.
They have high stomach cancer.
Yeah, so who knows? I don't know if that's a thing or not. You don't have to make it in a steamer at all. And in fact, but I'm still doing it in stainless. I'm doing it a lot now in a big stock pot, because what I like about that is I cook it on that little hot plate below 190 degrees. So when the beans are soft, I hold the lid on and pour all the water out. And then I pour boiling water on one of these things and pour that in and just mix it around with a sterilized spoon and just mix it up real well. And then I pour it into the pressure cooker in the steamer, in the little steamer thing, and put it in here.
With the top on it.
And you said it needs to be 2 or 3 inches thick?
Doesn't need to be. I do 2 cups to 3 cups at the most at a time in a pressure cooker that's about this size, this high, and that works real well. What I found is they say don't do it more than 3 inches high, and I think it's 3 inches they say. And I found if I do like more than 3 cups and it gets more than about that thick, it doesn't seem to work as well. I think it gets too hot in the middle and it doesn't get enough air. It needs air, but even more, it needs moisture. You don't want to let it dry out.
So how long do you cook that? The 2 to 3 cups in a pressure cooker.
Whatever it takes, you want them soft. Japanese guy says it should feel like your earlobe.
So, if you don't have a pressure cooker, and I guess probably a lot of us don't have to,
Right.
because we haven't used them, you can cook it, but it just takes hours.
Mostly the reason for the pressure cooker is if you're using soybeans, which I don't use soybeans anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried the solar oven?
I was doing it last summer some, and I think I was doing soybeans then, and when I would have to leave it in all day and it wouldn't be quite done at the end of the day, but it'd be about done, and then the next day it would get soft. Soybeans take a long time.
What beans did you use tonight for your natto?